they gave this guy sugar pills and it healed him of cancer. Like, wait, what? You know, instead of poo-pooing that, we should be excited about that, because the body or the mind was induced into believing that these pills would heal whatever the illness was, and it did. Except perhaps encourage people to look to the positive, look to a bright future. That can change it. We're going to get the future that we think we're going to get as a collective, as the majority. The majority actually does rule passively or consciously, and mostly it's passively still with humanity. Hello, my friends. Hope you're all doing well today. I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going to happen in 2025. As I've scrolled through the internet and YouTube and looked at a lot of the videos, especially in the spiritual, metaphysical space, so to speak, there's a lot of predictions about what's going to happen in 2025. Let's take a quick look at what some of the titles and the thumbnails are, and the clickbait, if you will, about what's going on. And then I'm going to give you my predictions of what's going to happen in 2025. And, you know, we're already into June. How many of these predictions, ask yourself, and let's see. So let's take a look what some of the things people are saying right now. All right. So here, let's look at this. Warning, something big is about to happen. Major warning. That was 4 months ago. Simpsons predictions. Some of us have heard that one before. Baba Vanga's shocking 2025 prediction. The beginning of the end revealed. End of the world to begin in 2025. Something is going to happen in 2025. Well, I can guarantee you that's for sure. Something is definitely going to happen. Something is happening in 2025. Are you prepared? What people predicted for 2025. Solar storm catastrophe. This will happen in July 2025, and a Jesus-looking character holding up this sign. Something big will happen in July of 2025, and so on. So my question is, let's think about some of these things. And if you've read any of this stuff, and if you're into any of this stuff, has any of it happened? People always go back and look at stuff that happened and say, oh, this was predicted. This was predicted in the scripture and the Bible and by Nostradamus and, you know, by Edgar Cayce and so on and so forth. What this does is it instills fear in people. Something terrible is going to happen in 2025. I remember listening to some predictions that Trump was going to start World War III. Okay. Now, some will say, well, yeah, he's doing that right now. But so far, it hasn't materialized. And he has a track record of not getting into wars. So although he's taken some military actions, I won't get into that, whatever side of that you're on. My point is that these people are inducing fear. And this speaks to something that I think is very important, and that is that we as a collective create our reality. Now, whether you believe that or not, whether you think it's magical or not, even in the physical, we create reality. Okay, you make a plan, you're going to build a house or a shed or a shop or something like that. You make a plan, you save up the money, or you get a loan, you hire contractors. So you just created your reality because you wanted a shop. Okay, that's the simple 3D physical reality of how 3D generally works. But there's something, and if you've listened to this channel before, you've heard me talk about it. There's something underlying behind that is more metaphysical or spiritual or magical, if you will. Okay, our collective thought is what drives reality and society and so forth. Whether you look at it from a physical perspective or a metaphysical perspective, you know, like the physical one that I just described, or if you look beyond that. Some people call it law of attraction. I call it law of assumption, which is a Neville Goddard term. Anyways, so these people are inspiring fear in people. They're driving the attention or the thought process. Now, if thoughts create, if thoughts are things, then they're contributing to this creation. Now, some of them are just doing it for clicks, and to get views and that kind of thing. And I get that. I'd like to get more views than I'm getting. So share this video with people. Anyways, here's my assessment of looking at these things. Okay? Like 99% of these predictions don't come to fruition. Now, even a stop clock is right twice a day. So something may happen. We just don't know when. But I've been listening to these kinds of predictions and other kinds of predictions for, 30 to 40 years now. And the vast majority of them do not materialize. Now, you can look back on things and go, oh yeah, that was that prediction fulfilled. But humanity tends to do things habitually or cyclically, I don't know how you say that, cyclically or cyclically. Tell me in the comments if I'm saying that right. We tend to do things over and over, and not always for our good. Things do happen. And so you can look at some of these predictions and go back in history and overlay a whole bunch of different times in history where you could say, well, this prophecy was fulfilled or this prediction was fulfilled. So what's the point of all of this? My point with all of this is the negativity that it inspires and drives our society in that direction, whether it's physically, spiritually, or metaphysically. If you constantly complain about things, I believe God or the universe is going to give you more things to complain about because that's your frequency, your vibration, if you will. So stop complaining. And people love a good conspiracy. I myself used to be what people would term a conspiracy theorist. And, I'm not saying that there's no conspiracies. There are, and there have been throughout history. I'm just saying when we focus our attention on those things, we feed energy into that and help create it. At the very least, we help create it. In my opinion, we actually do create it. And we have the society and the things going on that we've created. Just look at the collective mindset. Now you can see it much more clearly on the internet and social media and so on. What's the majority thought process? Now we have different factions, right? So this is one of the reasons I have pulled away from the political realm for so many years, and I kind of got sucked back in with the recent election, and I'm pulling away again because the negativity just brings me down, and I don't want to be there. Now, this is not to say that we should ignore problems and they'll just go away. That's not true either. But we don't have to be obsessed with them 24/7, day in and day out. And a lot of people do that, especially on social media. You get on these social media platforms where everybody's complaining about the same thing, and and it shouldn't be that way, and what we should do about it, and and how it harms us, and so on and so forth. Okay, how many times do you need to hear that to understand what's going on? How about we put our energy into solutions and focus on that, and we see our future as bright and moving forward and solving these problems? I get it. It's hard to do that when reality, 3D reality, is slapping you upside the head with all of these things going on. Okay. This is a Neville Goddardism where you imagine things the way you would want it, and your imagination creates, or your thoughts create, if you will. Now, there's a lot of truth behind this, and there's science behind this too. Let's start out with the placebo effect. People poo-poo the placebo effect, say, oh yeah, well, they gave this guy sugar pills and it healed him of cancer. It's like, wait, what? Instead of poo-pooing that, we should be excited about that, because the body or the mind was induced into believing that these pills would heal whatever the illness was, and it did. But it wasn't the pills, because we know they were sugar pills or whatever, right? So it was the mind and the body. The mind assumed a state of healing based on the belief that this medicine would heal it. And it worked. That's amazing, folks. And that happens all the time. And I believe a lot of the medicine, this is why some people can have chemotherapy, if you will. Let's jump right into something that can be terrible, and it doesn't work, or it only works temporarily, and then they end up succumbing to the cancer. And other people can have it and it heals them because probably they had more belief in it that it would heal them, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Okay. Or people who don't have the chemotherapy and are healed of cancer, and they go some other alternative route, like changing their eating habits and so on. So this effect is the observer effect, or the double slit effect, right? That nothing happens unless there's an observer, so to speak. That's my interpretation of it. That it's either a wave or a particle. So now science is discovering that it's always fluctuating between wave and particle, but the observer effect is what collapses the wave into a particle, creating 3D reality, right? So science is finally catching up with the ancient wisdom that's been saying stuff like this for millennium, and of course in our modern society has been poo-pooed as just, mystical, magical, religious dogma or what have you. Not that there isn't religious dogma. You've heard me talk about that kind of thing. I guess the underlying point of this whole thing is don't buy into the bullshit, my friends. Oh, the psychic says the world's going to end in July of 2025 or whatever, whatever the case may be. I'm just making that title up, but there might be something out there if you type that into YouTube or perhaps TikTok or what have you. Don't buy into it. You know what? If it does end, it ain't going to matter anyways. So I've had people tell me, well, don't you want to know about this? I'm like, why? What can I do about it? If the world's going to end, it's going to end. My advice is to enjoy life, to live, to love, to laugh, to hang out with friends and family and loved ones and have some fun and do some things that you want to do, work on that hobby, eat that piece of cake, that kind of thing. I think that's important to do. We get so caught up in our stories that we tell ourselves, and especially if they're negative ones, or we feel like we're in this downward spiral. Now, I've gone through depression. I wrote a book about it on how to become happy because I had to pull myself out of a spiral of depression that I was in after a divorce. And I did that by changing my thoughts, by changing, by affirming things, by having gratitude for everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and it wasn't easy, but I changed my mind and that changed my life. You've heard that before. Change your mind, change your life. It's true, friends, and it's true as a collective too. And so I don't buy into all of this end of the world stuff. Like I said, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There's not much I can do about it in that case, except perhaps encourage people to look to the positive, look to a bright future. That can change it. We're going to get the future that we think we're going to get as a collective, as the majority. The majority actually does rule passively or consciously, and mostly it's passively still with humanity. So my friends, what's going to happen in 2025? The same dang thing that's been happening for a long time. Nothing much. If something does happen, well, it's going to happen. But enjoy life. Have fun. Stop getting all worried about stuff and having anxiety. You ever wake up with anxiety in the morning? What's your mental diet and your spiritual diet? Is it filled with all these conspiracy theories and of what's going to happen? Or is it looking to the future? Or is it looking to just have a good day? Just plan your day out in your mind for about 15 minutes before you get started and see everything going smoothly and having fun. And if it doesn't, don't dismiss it and go, oh, that doesn't work, because you probably have a lot of subconscious thoughts and you're not even aware of them that, affect your day. And it's part of our culture, so what we were raised with. So, all right, my friends, I wanted to keep this one short and sweet, and have a great day and a great future. And 2025 is going to be awesome, my friends. Peace out.